Alright, so this is my tutorial for super jumps. I'm not gonna be. This is gonna be like unedited one take, so it might be a little scuffed, but I'm gonna try to include everything you need to know. So, in Wario World, super jumps are a trick where you basically get a really big jump. I'll try to demonstrate it here, but it might take me a few tries. So there, the first one was a normal jump, the second one was like a big super jump. And that's useful because it lets you skip some parts of the game and get to places that you normally can't a lot faster. I wouldn't recommend you bother doing this until you're already pretty good at the game. You can actually get a really good time without them. So I wouldn't recommend learning these immediately because they are frame perfect. And if you didn't know, this game runs at 60 FPS, meaning this is a one frame trick at 60 FPS, which isn't too hard because it's like a feel-based trick. Uh, the general distance of it, you press the R button, and then a few frames later you press the A button, and then you press the A button immediately again after that. So it's not like a visual cue or anything like that. It's purely based on a feeling. So I'm first going to show you the buffered super jump, which I personally have a lot more trouble with. I've always been better at it unbuffered, but buffered is a little bit better because you can recover it if you go too early. So I'll try to get a good one here. So you'll notice that when I paused, Wario was barely off the ground, and that's what you want. If Wario is completely on the ground, uh, it's no good. And if Wario's in like a tumbling animation, then that means you went too late. I'll show you that in a second. But this is a good frame. So what you want to do is, assuming you pressed R and then on the right frame, pressed A and start at the same frame. That's really important. You need to press them at the same time. If you did that right and you see this frame here, you unpause and then right before the game resumes, you press A. This is a little hard to explain with words, so you're gonna have to just kind of feel it out with some practice. And I'll see if I can get it here. Also, make sure you're holding the A button. So you press and hold the A button in the unpause. Like that. I should mention that there's 3 frames you can repress the A button, and depending on which frame you press it on, will give you different heights. So press on the first frame, you get max height, second frame is middle height, and third frame is the lowest height. So, yeah. If you go too early, like this, either you won't see any blue at all, or you'll see blue until it'll be on the ground. I'll try to show you when he's on the ground with blue. Okay, this is actually a good frame right here. So this is gonna work if I press the A button again. You just kind of want to look out for that little visual cue right there where Wario's like barely in the air. I don't know how to describe it, but that visual cue that you see right as the game is pausing, you want to look for that. So yeah, that's too early. There. So I'm not in the air, but you can see the blue around me. This either means you press pause before the A button, or you pressed A and pause too early. And if that's the case, you just want to hold the direction opposite of where you're charging. If you actually paused early, you could try and unpause and try timing it, but I wouldn't recommend bothering with that. So yeah, I'll show you too late now. Okay, I didn't. Okay, that's gonna work. So that was a good frame. Okay, so this is too late. In this case, Wario's like tumbling forward in a front somersault, and if this happens, it's too late, and you just unpause and let go of everything. If you're doing it in a spot where you're like near a ledge, you'll probably fall off the ledge because you can't get out of this. You're gonna have to move forward a little bit. So yeah, that's basically buffered. I'll try to show you one more successful one, like that. That's the right frame right there. Just try to get that etched in your mind. Okay, so that actually happens if you press the A. Like there, I pressed the A button for the second time at a bad time. So it's not just pressing A on the one frame input. You also have to press A again in the unpause at the right time. So unbuffered super jumps, I find these easier because attempting them is really quick. Basically what you do is you press the R button. One thing that's important to mention is that R actually only works digital. So what a lot of people do is hold analog R, and then they press digital R, and then press the buttons. I've never learned it like this, so if I try to do it, I'd probably go too late or too early. So I would recommend doing that, holding R analog, pressing digital, and then doing it that way. But I don't, just because that's how I learned it. So basically, what you do for unbuffered is you press A on the same frame, you press A and pause, and then press A again within the 3-frame window, which at 60 FPS is about 1/20th of a second. The way I do this is I use 2 thumbs. You can use like a thumb and a pointer finger. You can use You can really use whatever two fingers you want. I use double thumbs. I should also mention that I use the middle finger for the R input, because it. Oh, my camera's out of focus. Because it gives my right hand a little bit more room to move. That's why I do it. So I would recommend doing that if you want to. Try using your middle finger to press the R button, but if you use your pointer finger and you make it work, then it's really not that important. Just make sure that you're pressing R twice within 3 frames. I'll try to demonstrate it. So, like that. So, to know if you went early, assuming, for this trick, if you go too early, I'll try to show what it looks like. You see how I did like this full jump? Like, it's not a super jump. It's like if I just do this. If I just tap and hold A once. Okay, that was bad. If you go too late, you'll do a really small jump. Like that. Like, I'm going a lot lower there. But if I go too early... Okay, that was a bad example. I go up like that. But if I go at the right time, you'll do super jump. So yeah, just make sure if you go too early, you do a big jump, but not a super jump. And if you go too late, you'll do a very small jump. And obviously not super jump. And like the buffered super jump, depending on which frame you retap A, determines the height of your super jump. The reason why these are not always good is because on some super jumps, like the Mirror Mansion Arena Skip super jump, if you mess it up too early, with buffer super jump, you can hold away from where you're going and try again. But with unbuffered, you have to just commit to it. And if you miss it, then you'll lose even more time. So despite buffered super jumps, or unbuffered super jumps, being a lot faster to attempt, the cost of them can sometimes be worse. Although sometimes it's also not worse. Like if you're up against a wall, there's really no reason not to do unbuffered unless you're incapable of doing them like I am right now. There you go. So yeah, that's basically all there is, I think, for super jumps. Just don't bother loading them until you're already pretty good at the game. I didn't bother loading them until I had like a 53-minute time, I think. And you can definitely get a sub 50-minute time if you get really good, although that'd be pretty hard without super jumps. So yeah, really just I'd recommend practicing them, but don't really bother stressing over them too much until you're at like a decently high level. So I think that's all that needs to be said about super jumps, and I hope this helps anybody wondering, because this is a pretty hard trick to understand. But once you do understand and get it down, it becomes pretty consistent.